That Iron Throne you see in House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, it's a comfortable lie. The real Iron Throne in the books is a monster, a hideous 10-foot-tall heap of twisted metal, forged to be a king's worst nightmare. It didn't just symbolize power, it judged it. It cut kings, maimed them, and if you believe the stories, murdered one. For 300 years it haunted the Targaryen dynasty. The shows only scratched the surface. So in this video, we're diving into 100 brutal Targaryen facts House of the Dragon hides about the Iron Throne. Before House of the Dragon, before the Dance of the Dragons, the Iron Throne was already a curse waiting to happen. The story of the throne begins not as furniture, but as a weapon of terror and a symbol of absolute conquest. When Aegon Targaryen and his sisters Visenya and Rhaenys descended upon Westeros, they didn't come to negotiate, they came to conquer. 1. The throne was forged from the surrendered swords of Aegon's vanquished enemies who knelt and laid their blades at his feet in his makeshift fortress, the Aegon Fort. 2. The songs claim it took 1,000 swords, but the truth is murkier. In the Game of Thrones show, Littlefinger counts fewer than 200 blades, so the neat throne we see in House of the Dragon is closer to a safety-approved redesign than Aegon's original nightmare. 3. The forging itself was legendary, accomplished with the fire of Aegon's own dragon, Balerion the Black Dread. The swords were melted in dragon flame and then hammered into shape, forever binding the throne to the source of Targaryen power, dragons. 4. Unlike the symmetrical, almost cozy chair in the TV series, the book's version is a hulking, asymmetrical monstrosity of jagged edges and sharp points. 5. George R.R. Martin describes it as massive and ugly, designed to tower over the throne room and force everyone to look up at their king. 6. Aegon deliberately commissioned it to be uncomfortable. His philosophy was that a king should never sit easy, believing vigilance was essential for a ruler. 7. It's impossible to lean back against it as the rear is just a tangle of sharp, fanged steel. 8. This design was a core tenet of early Targaryen rule. Power isn't a prize to be enjoyed, but a brutal burden to be carried. 9. The throne was built at the Aegon Fort, a simple wooden castle where Aegon first landed. This site would later become King's Landing. 10. Aegon's formal coronation was conducted by the High Septon at the Starry Sept in Old Town, but his sister-wife Visenya first crowned him at the Aegon Fort. 11. The throne was so massive it was deemed immovable. When Aegon ordered the wooden Aegon Fort torn down to build the Red Keep in 35 AC, the new castle had to be constructed around the throne. 12. This created a coronation problem for his successor. When Aegon died, his son, Aenys I, had to be crowned at the Red Keep's construction site because the throne couldn't be moved. 13. Aegon often toured the kingdoms, leaving his sisters Visenya and Rhaenys to rule in his place. Both were known to sit the Iron Throne, a clear sign of their immense authority. 14. This established an early precedent for female power that would later be tragically challenged. That early acceptance of women on the throne makes the Great Council in House of the Dragon a lot more tragic. The throne's reputation as a judge of character began almost immediately. It wasn't just a symbol. Whispers spread that the throne itself had a will, and it didn't suffer fools, tyrants, or the weak. This belief was cemented by the fate of Aegon's sons. 15. Even Aegon the Conqueror wasn't totally immune. It is said he was cut by the throne after reading a defiant message from Dawn, the one kingdom he failed to conquer. 16. His heir, Aenys I, was a weak and indecisive ruler who struggled to contain the faith-militant uprising. The throne, it seemed, rejected him for his weakness. 17. The throne's judgment became terrifyingly real with Aegon's second son, Maegor I, better known as Maegor the Cruel. 18. Maegor seized the throne from Aenys' son and began a reign of unparalleled brutality. He was the one who oversaw the completion of the Red Keep. 19. To protect the castle's secrets, like its hidden tunnels, Maegor had all the builders who worked on it massacred. 20. His tyranny was legendary, but his end became the cornerstone of the throne's cursed reputation. In the shows, Maegor's death is just a line of history. In the lore, it's the moment people start saying the Iron Throne kills kings. 21. In the year 48 AC, with his rule collapsing around him, Maegor the Cruel was found dead on the Iron Throne. 22. His robes were soaked in blood, with some accounts claiming his wrists were slashed open by the throne's blades and another sword from the chair had impaled him through the neck. 23. Theories about his death swirled. Was it suicide? An assassin using one of his own secret passages, or something else entirely? 24. The most popular and enduring story, however, was that the Iron Throne itself had passed judgment, killing the cruel king who sat upon it. 25. Maegor's fate cemented the idea of throne injuries, where any cut was seen as a sign that the king was being judged unworthy. 26. The legend of his death became a grim warning to all who followed. The throne demands a worthy ruler and will punish those who fail its test. 27. While his death remains a mystery, the story transformed the throne's reputation from a mere seat of power into a potential executioner waiting for its next victim. After the bloodshed of Maegor's reign, the throne finally found a king it didn't seem eager to kill, Jaehaerys I, the Conciliator. His 55-year rule was the longest and most peaceful in Targaryen history, a true golden age. But even his wisdom couldn't prevent one decision that would plant the seeds of civil war. 28. Jaehaerys I, grandson of Aenys I, ascended the throne after Maegor's death and immediately sought to mend the relationship between the crown and the faith. 29. He was a lawmaker and diplomat who ushered in an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity. 30. Unlike his predecessors, Jaehaerys wasn't known to be cut by the throne, reinforcing the belief that it accepted him as a just king. 31. He and his beloved queen, Alysanne, ruled together, continuing the tradition of powerful Targaryen women advising on matters of state. 32. However, the end of his long reign was marked by a succession crisis that House of the Dragon shows us the vote for, but hides how deeply it rewrote who could ever sit the Iron Throne. 33. After outliving his sons, Jaehaerys was left with no clear male heir. The two main claimants were his granddaughter Rhaenys and his grandson Viserys. 34. To prevent a war, Jaehaerys convened the Great Council of 101 AC, where lords from all over Westeros gathered to vote on the succession. 35. The show frames it as a simple vote. In the lore, it's a quiet revolution in how Westeros thinks about who can claim the throne, powerfully affirming existing Andal custom and precedent. 36. They chose Viserys, the son of Jaehaerys' second son, over Rhaenys, the daughter of his eldest son. The message was clear. A woman would not sit the Iron Throne, regardless of her birthright. 37. This decision effectively disinherited Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was, a capable and popular figure who many felt had the stronger claim. 38. The Great Council was meant to prevent war, but it planted the exact seed that would grow into the Dance of the Dragons. 39. By favouring a younger male over an elder female, the Council armed the future Greens with a legal precedent to challenge a woman's claim. 40. The ruling established that the Iron Throne belongs to men first, no matter a woman's birthright or the king's decree. 41. In a tragic twist of fate, the wise and peaceful king inadvertently set the stage for the most destructive war in his family's history. King Viserys I, as seen in House of the Dragon, was a good man but an ineffectual king. His reign was defined by his failed attempts to please everyone and control his ambitious family. The show uses the Iron Throne to brilliantly symbolize his decay. 42. In the show, Viserys is repeatedly cut by the Iron Throne, and these wounds refuse to heal, festering and leading to amputations. 43. This is a powerful visual metaphor. The throne is literally consuming him, judging him for his weakness and his inability to make hard choices. 44. A cut on his back symbolizes betrayal from those closest to him, while a festering wound on his hand points to his rotten hand, Otto Hightower. 45. Now, this is one of the most brilliant changes the show made. While the books note Viserys' declining health and a cut on his hand, they don't state he was constantly being cut. The showrunners amplified this to make the throne's curse literal and visible. 46. Legends say the throne rejects weak kings, and Viserys, for all his good intentions, was undeniably weak. 47. Every cut on his body mirrored the realm's growing sickness as the green and black factions hardened into enemies. 48. When he named Rhaenyra his heir, he was openly defying the very precedent his grandfather Jaehaerys had created at the Great Council of 101 AC, a decision he simply lacked the strength to enforce. 49. He spent his entire reign trying to hold his family together, but his passivity only allowed both sides to become more entrenched and hostile. 50. The decay of his body perfectly mirrors the decay of peace in the Seven Kingdoms. As he grew weaker, the storm of war gathered. 51. The throne's judgment on Viserys was slow and agonizing. It didn't kill him quickly like it supposedly did Maegor. Instead, it bled him dry, a physical manifestation of how his indecisive rule was draining the life from his dynasty. Before we dive into the Dance of the Dragons and the bloodiest years the Iron Throne ever saw, let us know in the comments below, based on the laws of gods and men at the time, who had the rightful claim, Rhaenyra or Aegon? Now let's see how their ambition painted the throne room red. The Iron Throne was never more central to the story than during the Dance of the Dragons. It was the ultimate prize, the symbol of legitimacy that both Rhaenyra Targaryen and her half-brother Aegon II were willing to burn the world for. 52. The Civil War from 129 to 131 AC was a direct conflict over Viserys I's succession. Rhaenyra was his named heir, but upon his death, the Greens crowned Aegon II. 53. Aegon II was the first to sit the throne after his father's death, using a golden, three-headed dragon sigil to distinguish his faction. 54. For a brief, triumphant period in 130 AC, Rhaenyra captured King's Landing and finally took her seat on the Iron Throne. 55. But the throne judged her too. The show celebrates her claim, but the lore adds a darker twist. As she ascended the steps, she cut her hands and legs on the blades, a dark omen for her short and bloody reign. 56. Her short rule drowned in paranoia and executions, turning the small folk of King's Landing against the very realm's delight they once adored. 57. Within months, she was driven from the city she'd claimed, abandoning the twisted steps of the throne she'd bled for. 58. House of the Dragon shows the dragon battles, but the book makes it explicit. Without dragons as the ultimate symbol of legitimacy, your claim to the throne was just ink and words. 59. The throne room itself became a place of execution. After retaking the city, Aegon II used it to dispense his brutal justice on Rhaenyra's supporters. 60. Aegon II's time on the throne was short and agonizing. He was so severely wounded in battle that he was often unable to even climb the steps to sit on it. 61. Even if Aegon II himself wasn't cut, the war he waged for the Iron Throne carved bleeding wounds across the realm, a reflection of the throne's curse. 62. The war only ended when Aegon II was poisoned by his own men, a grim conclusion to a conflict that cost both sides nearly everything. 63. With both Rhaenyra and Aegon II dead, the throne passed to Rhaenyra's young son, Aegon III, in 131 AC 64. At just 11 years old, Aegon III inherited a broken kingdom and a throne stained with the blood of his family. 65. Under Aegon III, also known as Dragonbane, the last dragons withered and died, leaving the Targaryens with the throne, but without the very power that had forged it. 66. The Dance of the Dragons proved that sitting the Iron Throne was not enough. Holding it required a strength that neither Rhaenyra nor Aegon II ultimately possessed. House of the Dragon ends before this fallout, but the true legacy of their war is a realm so broken that even dragons couldn't survive it. If the dance was a wildfire, the Blackfyre rebellions were a slow-burning poison that infected the Targaryen line for a century. And it all started with one king's spectacularly selfish deathbed decree. 67. This disaster was orchestrated by King Aegon IV, better known as Aegon the Unworthy, who reigned from 172 to 184 AC 68. He was a corrupt, hedonistic ruler who used his power purely to satisfy his gluttonous appetites. 69. He fathered countless bastards. Then on his deathbed, in a final act of malice toward his legitimate son, Daeron II, Aegon IV legitimized all of them. 70. This single act plunged the realm into generations of chaos. Among his so-called great bastards was a charismatic warrior named Daemon Waters. 71. Aegon IV had previously gifted Daemon the ancestral Targaryen Sword of Kings, Blackfyre, the sword of the Conqueror himself. 72. Armed with a royal decree and the king's sword, Daemon now called himself Daemon Blackfyre and laid claim to the Iron Throne. With Blackfyre in his hand, Daemon wasn't just another pretender. He carried the same sword Aegon the Conqueror had held when he first claimed the throne. 73. He fueled his claim with rumours that Daeron II was not Aegon IV's son, but the product of an affair. 74. This sparked the first Blackfyre rebellion in 196 AC, a brutal civil war that pitted Targaryen against Targaryen once again. 75. The realm split in two, with Daemon's supporters flying the banner of a black dragon on a red field. The shows barely mention the Blackfyres, but in the books their rebellions are the constant drumbeat of who truly deserves the throne, echoing for a century. 76. Though Daemon Blackfyre was ultimately defeated, his surviving sons fled to Essos and established the Golden Company, a mercenary army dedicated to putting a Blackfyre on the Iron Throne. 77. In total, there were 5 Blackfyre rebellions, a series of wars and plots that spanned over 60 years, constantly threatening the rule of the Red Dragons. 78. Aegon the Unworthy's final act turned the Iron Throne into a prize claimed by 2 branches of the same family, proving one king's weakness can curse the crown for generations. The curse of the Iron Throne reached its terrifying apex with the last Targaryen king to sit on it, Aerys II, the Mad King. His reign is a masterclass in how paranoia, fueled by the pressures of the throne, can lead to absolute tyranny. 79. Aerys II's reign began with promise, but he slowly descended into a deep and violent madness. 80. He became obsessed with plots against him, seeing traitors and assassins around every corner. 81. The Iron Throne itself became a source of his torment. He was cut by its blades so frequently that he earned the nickname King Scab. 82. His scab-covered limbs became a walking prophecy. A king unfit for the throne and a throne that refused to let him forget it. At 83, his paranoia grew so extreme that he refused to allow any blades in his presence, except for his Kingsguard swords. 84. He let his own appearance decay, with his hair and beard growing into a matted tangle and his fingernails turning into yellowed claws. 85. This madness ultimately culminated in Robert's rebellion, a war sparked by his son Rhaegar's actions but fueled by Aerys' own cruelty. 86. As the rebel army reached King's Landing, Aerys made his final insane plan. He ordered his pyromancers to ignite the vast caches of wildfire hidden beneath the city. 87. Where Aegon I had forged the throne to keep kings humble, Aerys would rather rule over a city of ash than surrender it, screaming, "Burn them all!" 88. It was in the throne room that his reign came to a bloody end. To prevent the city's destruction, his own Kingsguard, Jaime Lannister, defied his sacred oath. 89. Jaime first killed the royal pyromancer, then turned on the king himself. As Aerys ran for the throne, Jaime pulled him from the steps and slit his throat. 90. The Mad King died on the floor before the very seat of power he had so thoroughly defiled. 91. In an iconic moment, Jaime Lannister then sat upon the Iron Throne himself, waiting for Ned Stark to arrive. That single image is the moment the Age of Dragons truly ends and the Age of Game of Thrones begins. The fall of the Targaryens didn't end the Iron Throne's story. It remained the ultimate symbol of power, a birthright that fueled the ambitions of the last survivors in exile, but its end would be as fiery as its creation. 92. Viserys III, Daenerys' brother, never got close to the Iron Throne, but he died chasing it, wearing a crown of molten gold that mocked everything he thought he was owed. 93. Daenerys Targaryen inherited this obsession, viewing the Iron Throne as her destiny. Her entire journey was a relentless quest to reclaim what she believed was hers. 94. When she finally reached King's Landing, her victory was marked by fire and blood, a brutal conquest mirroring Aegon's own. Yet her time with the throne was tragically short. 95. After Daenerys' descent into tyranny and her murder at Jon Snow's hand, the Iron Throne finally faced judgment itself. 96. Now, what happened next is exclusive to the TV show's ending, as the books are not yet finished. 97. In a moment of pure draconic grief and rage, her dragon Drogon unleashed a torrent of fire. 98. But he didn't burn Jon Snow. Instead, he turned his wrath upon the symbol that seemed to be the true cause of his mother's death, the Iron Throne. 99. According to the official script, the throne was just a dumb bystander caught up in the conflagration, not an intentional target. But to the people of Westeros and to us, after everything we've seen, it feels like judgment all the same. 100. The chair, forged in dragonfire, was unmade by dragonfire, melting into a heap of molten slag and ending the cursed legacy that House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones only hint at. For nearly 300 years, the Iron Throne was the heart of the Seven Kingdoms. Forged in fire to unify a continent, its sharp edges ensured that the reign of House Targaryen was anything but peaceful. More than just a chair, it became a character in the story, a symbol of conquest, a judge of kings, and a catalyst for madness and civil war. From Maegor the Cruel's mysterious death to the festering wounds of Viserys I and the paranoid cuts on the Mad King, the throne was a character in the story, demanding strength and punishing weakness. The shows gave us a smaller, safer version of the Iron Throne, but the real one, the one we've explored in these 100 facts, was a monster forged to remind every ruler how sharp power truly is. Its destruction by Drogon was the breaking of a wheel that had turned for centuries, powered by blood, ambition, and fire. The Iron Throne is gone, but the bloody lessons it taught about The true cost of power will echo through Westeros for as long as there are kings to crown and thrones to fear.